again. My name is Kurt Knox, and this is Emmy Kim, and
That's Mrs. Kim to you.
Mrs. Kim to you, Mrs. Kim to me too. Chapter 7, Section 2 in your textbook. This is about evidence of evolution. You guys should be on page 234, and this covers all the way to 240. Please pause this video anytime you want, and rewind it as much as you need to take notes.
Yes, this section covers evidence of evolution. We remember from the last section, Darwin came up with the theory of evolution by natural selection. Well, we can't accept it just blindly. We need to have something to back it up, and so we do have some evidence that supports his theory. One is when we compare the body structures of animals that look very different on the outside, we see that they're really similar. They have similar bone structure and the same number of bones, such as the bat's wing, the whale's fin, flipper,
Yeah.
cat's leg, and human arm. Hard to tell that we have something in common with a bat. And when you compare body parts of different animals, that's called comparative anatomy.
The other evidence that scientists use for evolution is our development early on in the embryonic stage. This is when you're still in your mom's womb, when the cat's still inside the mother. Our development inside that womb, the embryonic development, is extremely similar. We all have, for example, all vertebrates have tiny slits in their throats during the embryonic development. Okay.
And a tail.
And a tail is absolutely right. But obviously, as the embryo grows, and here we get differentiation. But at the start, we're all very similar in our early development, and that does suggest that
We may have evolved from a common ancestor.
yes.
Also, when we compare DNAs of similar looking animals, we see that their DNAs are very similar, and that suggests that they may have had a common ancestor. For example, the horse and the donkey.
All right. Make sure you guys summarize the 3 types of evolution.
Evidence.
Evidence of evolution. Be prepared to talk about it, and this is something you guys need to have in your notes for discussion.
There is actually one more evidence that we're going to be talking about next.
Yeah. Which is fossils. Fossils, there are 2 types of fossils, and they're both the cast and the mold fossil. And fossils are remnants of organisms that have lived in the past. For example, we found dinosaur fossils, and we put those fossils together to get an idea how the dinosaur looks. But here you see the cast fossil of a shell, which is a solid copy. A cast is a solid copy of an organism. And a mold fossil, if you guys think of like a jello mold, it's the hollow indentation of an organism. So a fossil is evidence of things that have lived in the past.
Now, for mold and cast fossils, they have to have some sort of shell or bone, something hard that could be buried and be covered up. Like a worm would just dissolve, and it wouldn't be able to turn into a mold and cast fossil.
And most fossils are formed after they're buried. So this is why you get a lot of organisms that lived in the ocean or in the sea as fossils. We find lots of those organisms because as they die, it gets buried in that sediment, that muck, and it's easily buried, and it can form a fossil a lot easier than a land animal.
Another type of fossil that gives us evidence of what it was like in the past are petrified fossils. And that's when minerals replace part or all of an organism. In this picture, you see a tree trunk, and after many, many years of being in the lake or in the river, the minerals have seeped in through the cells, plant cells, and it hardened and became a petrified fossil.
Other examples of fossils are what we call trace fossils. And trace fossils are evidence of activities, things like footprints of dinosaurs or footprints of certain animals that lived in the past. We can find out how they walked or how fast they walked. We also find trace fossils of other things that slithered on the ground. So trace fossils are evidence of activity that the animals have done in the past.
Another type of fossil are preserved remains. They could either be preserved in tar, they could be preserved in something like amber from a tree. A lot of bugs get trapped in amber and become preserved that way.
Yeah, think of Jurassic Park. That's the whole premises of Jurassic Park, the preserved amber.
Oh, one more thing, ice.
Yeah, ice.
Mammoth.
Yep. Right. So the reason why scientists study these fossils and the reason why they're so important is because no humans have lived in these past environments. We only have clues to what the past environments were like, and those clues come from the fossils. For example, if we found a fossil of a big leafy plant, we know that a big leafy plant would probably not exist in a very dry, hot desert. It would occur in more of a damp, warm climate. So the fossils give us evidence about how life was in the past. What type of animals, what type of plants, and what type of environment there was. So the fossils help us learn about the past environment.
Now, when they found fossils of animals from the past, they noticed that some of them were similar to animals we have today, but a little bit different. And that also suggests that evolution did occur.
Okay. Make sure you guys summarize what we learned about fossils. Be prepared to talk about this. And that concludes Chapter 7, Section 2. Thank you for listening.